All right. The Reason RX podcast. This is Michael and
Melanie.
Jet.
And yeah. So we're going to be talking about the book, The Soul of a Horse today by Joe Camp. It's a good book. Anyone should read. I've read it. People who I've recommended it to like it. Melanie, did you like it?
I loved it. I didn't like it. I loved it. I really, really loved it.
Thank you, Joe Camp.
Yes, thanks for writing it. It's amazing.
And Kathleen.
Yeah, right.
And the horses. They did a big contribution.
Yeah.
And all the people who helped Joe learn.
Yeah.
Monty and everybody. So, because the title can be misleading, The Soul of a Horse, you might think, about horses, who cares? But there's a lot more to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like Melanie, you think it's like, you agree it's really is a good book that shows you, helps you see about the importance of independent thought?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes in that direction just because a person who's not doing that would not be able to achieve what the book set out to do. I mean, it wouldn't have been, you can't get the same results if you don't do that. So independent thought is just integral to the whole join up philosophy, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the book's about horses, but at a more fundamental level, it's about independent thought and how that's important for life, right?
Yeah, it carries through in many, many different areas.
So very important for anybody, no matter what age, whoever you are. It's a good book. Any rational person will learn from it, and we recommend it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, so Melanie's kids, Jack, Kira, and Leo, I've taught them science. We've been going for about a year, twice a week and then 3 times a week. And we've been studying biology, and this is one thing we read in class. They read outside of class, and they've written an essay about it. And so they're going to discuss it. We'll get some input, because this would be a good thing for, as I say, anybody to read, but people like teachers in biology, it'd be good for them to read. Anybody doing science or in the humanities that want to go over some thinking skills. You can learn about induction in this book a little bit. You can use it to illustrate it, if you know about induction. And it could be good for homeschoolers to read, right?
Yeah, I would say so. It rounds out their education in such a nice way.
Yeah. And so this will help illustrate how it's good for all different people to read. Because, I liked it. Melanie liked it. Other people I've recommended it to have liked it. And, of course, a lot of people, you'll see a lot of good reviews on the internet. But so the people that will be talking about it are Jack, Kira, and Leo. Jack, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Jack.
How old are you?
I'm 11.
And you're being homeschooled, right?
Yeah.
And so is Kira and Leo, right?
Yes.
Okay. Kira, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Kira. I am 14.
And Leo?
I'm Leo. I am 15, almost 16.
15 going on 16. And so they are Melanie's kids.
Yep.
And
good ones, a good batch.
yes.
Good ones.
So what do y'all think about The Soul of a Horse?
I liked it. It was a good book.
You recommend it to people?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you learn from it?
Well, I learned. Well,
No.
okay. So, I did learn a lot of the stuff that you see in the movies. The cowboys are riding horses, and you learn a lot of the stuff that's associated with horses, like horseshoes, like blankets, stalls, etc. Those
Whipping a
are
horse, beating it.
Yeah, those are all bad for the horse.
Yeah.
And he goes into detail and he explains why they're all bad for the horse. And And also, in some ways, he kind of explains why people started doing them in the first place, like with horseshoes. He mentions that they started giving horses horseshoes because horses' hooves would get destroyed because of the ammonia building up in the stalls.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it seems like, based on information we have now, it seems like kings would keep horses in stalls to keep them away from other people and to protect them inside their little castle. And whereas the poor farmers would have their horses in a better way and they'd be roaming around in pastures and stuff. But because the horses are in stalls, they don't have much space, and so they're pissing and pooing in the stall, and the horses are walking in it, and gets in their hooves, and the hooves decay. And so then, because one bad thing is being done, another wrong thing is needed to kind of make up for that symptom. And so they would figured out, well, let's use horseshoes, right?
It's sort of like how they'll take a pill to cure like their depression, but then it'll give them diarrhea, so they need to take a pill to stop that, but then they have constipation, so then they need to take a pill to
For the constipation, and the constipation pill will give you.
Okay, let's
Will give you depression.
Yeah, they take something, and then they get depressed, and they need something else, and 3 other drugs, instead of having advice so they can just get rid of the cause in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing you learn from it. So that shows, yeah, like good thinking on your part, Leo. You're not just reading the book, but you see that it has implications in different areas of life. Read the book intelligently and learn about cats and dogs and horses and people, what we can do for other things. Draw lessons from it in other areas of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And what'd you like about the book?
Well, do you want to go?
Well, you said like what you learned from it. What'd you like about it?
Well, I liked how I've never been within 10 feet of a horse, or at least haven't been within 10 feet of one recently. So, I mean, I'm not really involved with horses much, but despite that, when I read the book, I found myself really caring for horses and hoping that horses will be treated better in the future.
Yeah. And so it did a good job of capturing and holding your attention.
Yes.
And your interest. It wasn't just academic. There was like an emotional component to it too, also.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in the Coyote book that we read, I felt like that one was a bit more academic, but this one, yeah, there was a bit more of an emotional connection in Solve a Horse.
Yeah, like for the horses and for Joe and Kathleen, right? And his horses.
Yes.
Did you like it, Kira?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I thought like it was cool how there were stories of his horses and like horses in the wild, how he just tells stories about like horse herds and what they did in danger and stuff. And he compared wild horses to horses that are like domestic and stuff. It's just, yeah, he made a lot of comparisons and like a lot of stories, and it was interesting.
Yeah, and that's something like you wouldn't have done on your own, or you think a lot of people wouldn't. They just look at the domestic horse and how people have them and think, oh, that's just the way it is. They don't think about what should a horse really be like? How do they behave in the wild, in nature? Let's look at that and then see how we should have them. Let's be true to their nature, right?
Yeah.
And this helps you learn how to do that so you can know more about, again, like cats, dogs, people, zoo animals, how they should better be treated, and what we can do to make them healthier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. What'd you learn from the book? Did you learn anything?
Well, yeah, like, but no, yeah. So like the stuff about horseshoes. So just kind of a main point in the book was like how people just sort of think, oh, the horses are fine. Like they're fine. They're surviving, there's nothing like wrong with them. But like, they're not really looking at the nature of the horse. And something I learned in the book was like, yeah, you got to look into what the horse is really like and what it needs and like let, its physiology and stuff, and just like, find what the horse needs, not just assume that, oh, this is fine because it's worked for me, it's worked for other people, but that doesn't mean it's the thing that works the best.
Yeah, so like just because they're existing doesn't mean they're thriving, right?
Mm-hmm.
People should want, if they love their horse, they should want the best for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people want. They just don't know how to achieve it, and this helps them see that, right?
Yes, right.
I mean, I was that way. When I first got a horse, I didn't know a lot, and there was bad information, and I had to learn a lot. People have to learn. That's what happened. Like Joe learned a lot too.
I like how the book does a great job of letting us follow their whole learning process. I mean, it even starts from back on when they're first ever deciding on getting a horse, and how they even went through that process. And that was very touching, hearing how their first horse kind of became theirs. But I really like the idea that sometimes they made mistakes, but then they'd learn from them. And, that, like we were talking about, this goes into all areas of life. Doesn't just have to be if you're buying a horse, but, in anything. And basically just taking your mindset out of what's conventional and thinking, more about what you see and what would work better, and reading lots of different things. So I like that they were really, Joe and Kathleen were both working hard on that to make it work for them.
Yeah, and they might feel bad about what they did at first, but they didn't feel guilty. It's not entirely their fault.
Yeah.
It's because of the convention and the world we live in. So people shouldn't feel guilty or get defensive. They should realize, whoa, like we did all this stuff because of bad information. Now I can make a change.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's kind of part of the spirit of the book, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure is, yeah.
And, it's based on the idea of like being benevolent.
Mm-hmm.
If you're go after and show the horse you can be a good leader, and you're focused, you have its survival and happiness as a goal, it's going to tend to follow you more. Whereas if you beat it, it's going to become an enemy, and it's not going to want to do things for you. Then all it's doing with you is trying to avoid pain. It's not achieving pleasure and life and happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some like important philosophical ideas in there that are implicit,
Well, yeah, think of how when you raise kids, it's, to have healthy children, you don't raise them to fear things so that they'll do something. That's an older school of thought. Maybe some people still do that, but you want them to, view life in a positive, like you said, benevolent way, so that they never ever shy away from a challenge, but they welcome it because they know even if they fail a little, they'll learn from that and they'll become a better person after that. So the book does that, I think, a good job of showing how horses is kind of funny. I was thinking about my kids while I was reading that book, even at times, how if you just treat them like the way children need to be treated, you'll really have a great relationship with them. So good bonding.
Yeah. True. There's good analogies there. A lot to learn from it, as you say. And then, just to like make something clear too. Kira was saying something earlier, and the point is, like, when Joe's doing this, he's interweaving two stories. He's got a fictional story going on about some horses, and then his own journey and learning about horses. He and Kathleen and their horses, and they're interwoven. You have a few stories, a few chapters about the fiction, and then about the nonfiction, what Joe and his wife are doing, and then back to the fiction story for a little bit, and then back to the nonfiction, then back to the fiction, then back to the nonfiction. So that gives it a good flow and adds another good dimension to the book. Did y'all like it, JKL?
Yeah.
That interweaving like that?
Mm-hmm.
What else did you learn, Jack?
Well, one thing I did learn was about this thing called join up. So where instead of doing the traditional thing where you're putting fear into your horse and stuff to make it fear you and do everything out of fear and not trust, with join up, you don't have to do it that way. And it'll just do it out of trust.
Yeah.
And not out of fear or pain.
You earn the leadership position. And you don't try to get it to follow you just out of fear, right? You don't try to beat it. Good. Anything else y'all want to add? What you liked about the book or what you learned? Why you'd recommend it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd certainly recommend it to anyone who owns a horse and hasn't really thought about these sort of things.
But then also to people who haven't owned a horse, because like as we talked about in the beginning,
yes,
it's filled with just like life lessons. It has like a moral of like look into what you're doing, make sure it's right, not just like assume that it is.
That's great.
Yeah. Melanie, anything else? Put you on the spot.
I think
Yeah.
I said it, but
We
my
said a lot.
analogies, I think those stand still.
Yeah. So, all right. Hope that helps everybody know what the book's about, why it's entertaining, the deep value it has when you read it to anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that a lot. And would y'all read it again?
Yeah, for sure. We've read it a couple times actually.
Already? Wow. Yeah.
I guess one thing I'd like to say is just, and maybe on behalf of the kids and you, but just thanks to those guys for writing it, because they could have just kept that to themselves and then, well, that was great that we learned how to have good horses and a good relationship, but to actually write about it, so few people make such an impact on you that it actually makes you look at things differently from then on. And that's what this book did it for us, for sure. I mean,
Good.
we really felt like we see horses and animals in a different way. So that's a big thanks to them.
So thanks, Joe and Kathleen. And what are the horses' names?
Cash,
Skeeter,
Mouse.
Yeah.
what was it? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Mariah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah. All right. So
There are others, but yeah.
we recommend the book. We say thanks to them for writing it, putting all that into it. Very valuable. All right. So hope y'all go out and get the book. We'll link to it. You can look it up on Amazon. And thanks
Read it
for
with
listening to
your
the show. Melanie, what?
Read it with your kids.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for listening.